Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be doing a hydro dipped keychain. This is done on an acrylic blank as seen here, and here's your supply list. The acrylic blank we're starting on has been prepped and painted, so let's get started. I purchased my acrylic blanks from Zindy.com. It will be linked down below, but they do come with a clear plastic on both the front and the back. And for this one, I removed the one from the front, prepped it, and spray painted it with a white flat spray paint. I'm going to be using marbling paints from Marabou in 3 different colors. I have a black, I have a pink, and I'm also going to be using rose gold. To get started with the process, you want to make sure that you shake those paints up really well. I like to shake them a couple times, get things ready, and then I shake them again just to make sure. You're going to want to have a cup of water that the blank is going to be going down into, and you want to make sure it's enough that it's going to cover. So I just use a tall cup of water. I also have some coffee filters and a toothpick. I'm going to be using the toothpick to cause swirls in the paint. This will help us create a cute design in the finished product. Now I'm going to take a Q-tip and just a small piece of electrical tape, and I'm going to wrap that electrical tape around the toothpick, creating a thicker area so that when I dip my acrylic blank through the keychain hole into the water, it doesn't fall off. You can now see I've created a resistance area with that electrical tape, so when I dip it, it isn't going to come off there. It's time to get our paints shaken again, open, and ready to be used. This cup of water is just room temperature, and I'm going to start by just shaking in what I want to be probably my focal color. So for this project, pink. I put a couple drops of the pink in, and then I'm going to go in. I just want a small amount of black, so I'm literally just going to use 1, maybe 2 drops. And right directly on top of that, I'm going to layer some color. It gives it a really pretty effect. And here I decided that I did want to go in and create that pattern we talked about with the toothpick, and I'm dragging it up the side of the cup so the paint will stick there and not become globby on my project. I'm going to have another Q-tip on standby to push away the extra paint and water once I dip, and I'm just going to go in at an angle and stick the whole piece down in the water. And this is where I take and remove any paint, because when you pull back up, you don't want that excess causing like that clump that you see there on the toothpick. I like to just shake off and tap off the extra water that is on the dye or the acrylic. And then I take a coffee filter and I'm going to crumple it up and release it. And I'm just going to dab off some of the water spots here. You certainly don't have to do this. You could use an air dryer or a heat tool and just kind of blow it off a little bit. And any little water drops that you do see on there, like if it leaves what appears to be a water drop, those do dissolve underneath of your resin. So I'm just going to blot this off and set it aside to dry. Dry time's going to depend on your humidity and your temperature. Mine took about 30 minutes. So now that my piece is dry, I'm ready to do the next step, which is going to be applying the first coat of UV resin. So I can give it a little finger touch and I can tell it's good and dry, and the back still has that acrylic covering on it, that thin piece of clear paper. I like to water bath cure my UV resin projects, so I just have a bowl of water that I will be using while I do the complete and final cure on this project. And also I'm going to set up a folder, a manila folder. You can see here I have a lot of light coming in from my window, And since I'm using UV resin, that would affect it curing, like it would start the curing process right away. So I'm just gonna set that up and we are gonna start applying some UV resin. I like to place my blank on top of a little medicine cup or a Dixie cup or whatever you have on hand while I'm applying the UV resin, just to keep it off the work surface. I also use a silicone brush to spread around my UV resin while I'm applying it. Once you have your UV resin completely covered, you're going to use your UV lamp and do about a 30-second cure. After that 30-second cure, I'm going to place it in the water bath and do a full 3-minute cure. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up through this process. Once your water bath cure is complete, you're just going to remove your piece and dry it off with a lint-free towel or coffee filter, whatever your preference is. Now that the water bath is complete and it's cure, I'm going to be removing that protective backing off the back acrylic side. So it's just a real thin piece of covering here that I'm just going to use my weeding tool and grab a hold of it and remove. And then you'll see we have that plain acrylic finish of white on the back because we're removing whatever could have been on there. I keep this paper on here through the resin process, so if any drips off the side, I have that back protected. Now we're just going to be placing our decal. This is a 1.5-inch circle acrylic blank, and so I cut my decal at 1.3 inches so that I knew it would fit but be big enough to be good and legible. I'm sorry that I'm out of frame just slightly here. I needed to pull it in a little bit so that I could make sure I was getting it centered in my circle there on my piece that I wanted. And here I'm just going to be using my scraper tool to burnish that vinyl on really well onto the acrylic blank, and then I'll be removing the transfer tape. The transfer tape that I use is linked down below in the description. It is my favorite transfer tape for all types of vinyl. Once you've placed your decal onto the piece and removed your transfer tape, it's going to be time to put that last final coat of UV resin on to seal that decal in on the piece. And here you'll see me do that same process over again of putting it on a medicine cup and applying the UV resin and doing the curing process. Once I have the resin on, I do hit it with a quick torch or barbecue lighter just to pop any bubbles that may be in the resin. Now that our piece is completely cured and has been in the water bath, and you can see it's got a nice solid finish on it and it's cured all the way to the edge, we're going to put some hardware on here, some keychain hardware. I'm just going to be applying a tassel and a keychain to this, so I'll be using jump rings and keychain hardware, which is linked down below in the description. And the ring thing you see on my finger is just to help me open and close my jump rings. You always want to make sure you're separating them front to back, not left to right, so that you don't compromise the integrity of the metal in the ring. I do apologize for being a bit out of frame during this process, so I did speed it up while I attached the keychain hardware. Please leave any comments if you need help assisting getting that completed. This project turned out super cute, and we look forward to seeing you on the channel again soon.